And welcome to Straight Talk for another exclusive and amazing program, because we have a very West Coast Radio 95.3 FM and on Gynaco, so that you can able to watch us. So special guest. We've been trying to get this guest for some time. He's been very busy, of course. When I do introduce him, you'll understand why. He's a very, very busy person, but we're very grateful to have him. National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Emmanuel Joof. He is in the studio with us today, and we want to welcome him. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good evening, Flex. Yeah. It is a pleasure. Yes.
On today's program, we will be focusing on the NHRC's first 5 years in the freedom of expression, state of freedom of expression. Somehow, I know we can't get through all of these topics. There are quite a lot of topics, but as always, we try. Welcome to the show. Perhaps a good place to start is to introduce the mandate of your institution, NHRC. For those who may not have heard or know of the NHRC, you have some videos which have gone out today.
In the first place, you know, Flex is very important to talk about this, because otherwise the misconception we have about the NHRC will still linger. But you see, the National Human Rights Commission was set up by the government of 2016. It came up in 2017 with picking this up, because we have documentation from the TRRC, which we all watched.
Yes,
as to what happened to this country.
Indeed.
So the TJ processes, the transitional justice processes that the government set up, it set up, if you remember, dealings of Yahya Jammeh.
Indeed.
What he did.
Yes.
You know, doing that, they will hand over their report to the government, and they came up with a white paper, and Reparation Commission, because it was felt that in order not to go back to the era of Jammeh, in order not to go back to the mistakes,
yes,
we needed to know what actually happened.
Indeed.
What happened to the Gambia? How did we get to where we were? And how can we remedy? And that was the recommendations the TRRC did.
Yes.
So, and we saw it live on TV. You know, before that, we were all speculating.
Yep.
Some of us will even say, oh, these atrocities were not, they were committed by people from Kasama.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, the TRRC came up with 17 volumes. These perpetrators came, those who were the victims came forward, the witnesses were there, and they was documented. And that is why they came up with recommendation, and the government, in their white paper, accepted most of the recommendations.
Yes.
Again, came the NHRC. It was again part of the transitional justice process.
Indeed.
What this means is that the government said, listen, for us not to go back to what happened, let us set up an institution, an independent. You see, all these other commissions that I will be mentioning were ad hoc. They were for a period.
Yes.
And they did their job and they disappeared.
And yours is the only permanent commission.
We are the institution that carries out and carries on the mandate of the TRRC, which is the never again. Never again shall we allow what happened for 22 years to again happen in this country. And by setting up and establishing the NHRC, giving it a broad mandate, an oversight body, to make sure that what happened during Jammeh will be nipped in the bud. But I will come to our mandate. But just to tell you, as part of the TJ processes, you know, because I have to do this, because we tend to have a short memory in the Gambia. We easily forget things.
Yes.
The government also came up with reforms. One of them is still going on. It's called the Security Sector Reform,
which has a very close bearing also with the...
Yeah, because if you look at the TRRC sittings, it was the security sector. The violators, the perpetrators of the violation of human rights were the military and the police.
Yes.
And the NIA, the dreaded NIA.
Yes. Now reformed into SIS.
Yes. And it's still ongoing. The pace, people always complain that the pace is so slow.
Yes.
Then we had another interesting one, which was the judicial service reform, referred to as mercenary.
Even in the TRRC, and that is one of the recommendations which has been rejected by the...
Well, calling them mercenary judges because they felt that...
It was a recommendation for the mercenary judges to be recognized as such.
Yes.
But that was not... that is one of them. And whilst we are talking about this, there were two rejected recommendations by the government, right?
Yes.
And that is one of them. The other one is the amnesty, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Just those two.
Well, okay. Some were accepted in varying degrees.
Those ones we will get to the nitty-gritties of.
Yes.
I just thought it would be good to kill these two
in varying degrees.
Yes. We thought but I don't want to detract with format.
Yes. Although Flex, by next month we will be having the report.
Okay.
To the National Assembly on the status.
Aha, so that one that you do every year.
Yes.
Perfect.
So that one, yes. I will even come back to give you a synopsis of what the government has done.
We would love to have you definitely.
So that one, the details of it, the nitty-gritty, we can talk about it later. But I'm just, because I need to just explain to you, of course, the process. So then we had the Land Commission that was set up, but the judicial reform was to Gambianize the judiciary and have judges who were independent. That was So there was reform. There is issue relating to land. The Land Commission was set up, although again there's a lot of gaps and question marks about the effectiveness of the Land Commission. Then the Human Rights Commission was set up. As I've mentioned, it's therefore important. A lot of people see us as they are either anti-government, anti-establishment, or pro-government. No, we get everything. Pro-government, pro-opposition. But we were set up by an act of the National Assembly.
Indeed.
It's called the National Human Rights Commission Act of 2017, but the NHRC became operational in 2019 when the 4 commissioners were sworn in. After a vigorous process, you will perhaps, I should inform you that it was not the government that selected the commissioners. The commissioners were selected based on a shortlisting of umbrella civil society organization, 6 of them. And the names of those that were selected was sent to the National Assembly for future vetting, and the names were gazetted, and it was those names that were further shortlisted by the National Assembly that were sent to the President for appointment.
Okay.
So then we were sworn into office with a very broad mandate.
Very broad.
To say this for people to understand, one of the things during our swearing in that the President said, you see, this was a period when everybody was pro-human rights at that moment. Everything was fresh in our eyes and in our memories, because we have all gone through a period where... Are we still in... Well, I'm in 20... So everybody was, remember, freshly. People were just coming from prisons. People, the scars of torture, enforced disappearance. This was when you visited the prison. People were shocked that people were kept in this kind of conditions. And the President, and I remember what he told us when we were sworn in. I was the chairperson and still the chairperson. He told us that make sure you bring back a culture of rule of law and human rights in this country. He also told us human rights is not only for the Greater Banjul. Make sure that everybody in this country feels the effect, the impact of human rights. And this is exactly what we're doing. Perhaps we went too fast. But that's another topic. Perhaps
we'll get there for sure.
Perhaps. But just to tell you, so our mandate involves receiving complaints of human rights violation, monitoring human rights violation, recommending remedial action for those whose human rights have been violated. We have an advisory role to the government. We as you know, we come up with research documents. We advise the government on what it should do.
We've seen.
We also have we have powers to sit as a tribunal.
Okay.
We have quasi-judicial powers.
Yes, I've
to
seen
summon witnesses.
Exercise this.
Yes, yes.
With the security, with your complaints.
Yes, yes.
Just to make sure that our public and the people on the show can know about these things, because of we've worked with the NHRC. Myself, as a human rights advocate, I managed to bring 2 complaints. One of them was obviously the rapper, one rapper, Sheriff Kamara, called Sipai. And that was also one which was pushed to the NHRC, and it got to a conclusive outcome. And the first one was Keba Sheka with the incident with Gorgimbu, and there was some action that was taken. If many will remember, when Gorgimbu was actually moved, and also the victim was compensated. Same with the some of those works that has happened and occurred. And of course, you can take it on from there.
Oh yeah, and there were many others. We had one with drug law enforcement. Again,
Yes.
we ordered compensation.
Yes.
There was one also we had called Kirmot Ali. So there are many. So we don't publicize all, of course.
Okay.
But some of them, because
Perhaps you should. Perhaps you should.
Well, okay, in our reports we do.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, but there are some that will attract, because for example, Chipai is a rapper. So those ones will come out because they have a following.
Yes,
and the Keva Seka, those ones will come up because even that one ST came and testified.
Yes.
So obvious you will have some that will attract the but we, as I said, we have an individual complaints. So these things are reflected in our reports.
Yes. And in your complaints, I think I am looking at your report right here.
Yeah.
In your complaints, let's check out the number of people who have complained overall.
Yes.
And then the numbers which have been resolved. So makes for a very good statistics. In your report,
that is for 2023.
That is for 2023. Thank you. Let us make sure that is for 2023. The NHRC has received 71 complaints. And in those 71 complaints, 45 have been resolved, completed, cases completed. And then you have about 26 cases pending investigation. Yes. Which is, you have completed way more than have not been.
Yes.
For example, I think it almost works about 2/3 and a third.
Yes. That's the complaint mechanism.
Side, yes.
And because that is the one that a lot of people will want to know about.
Yes.
But for example, we involve in capacity building. You know, we train the police. Just recently, we finished in reviewing the curricula of the security forces.
Yes.
To make sure that in their curriculum, in their training school, there is a complete module on human rights. Because the police, whether we like it or not, they also have powers. They have powers of arrest.
Of course.
They have powers of detention.
Yeah.
They have powers to prosecute. But therefore, and they deal with the general public. So it is therefore important that they do their work in accordance with rule of law.
Indeed.
So these are also things that we do. We work very closely with civil society. Complaints mechanism is one that people usually want to know what we do. And of course, you know, we issue press releases.
Yes.
But there is more that we do.
We always publish on our media.
Yes. But there is more that we do apart from the press releases.
Yes.
We engage the government directly. Because sometimes we feel that it is important that we talk to the government directly to remind them of their obligation. You know, we do that. We do that, and I'm sure we will perhaps talk about it as we progress.
Certainly, areas we will talk about.
Yeah.
Just to skim very quickly and to highlight some of the, you should definitely take your chance to go on the NHRC's website, www.nhrc.gm.
Yes.
Yes, go there and you can download series of documents. You can see the implementation of the TRRC Recommendations report, the 2023 version. Every year NHRC checks and they do that report. And in there are many different reports. You also have the NHRC's report, which I am holding right now, which I'm actually, if you're watching us on the Gynaco newspaper YouTube page, you can see I have my tablet and this is what I'm going through. There are many, many things to go through in there. I'll just go through briefly. The report touches on very interesting points. Key human rights instruments that have not been ratified by the state, respect for integrity of the person, including deprivation of life, corruption and human rights. We actually have written an article on this interesting theme. Protection against torture and other cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment or punishment, right to liberty, access to justice, freedom of expression, and the media will be talking about this, freedom of association and assembly, right to vote and participate, TRRC report and government white paper, that one, right to health and outbreak of acute kidney. I have been paying a lot of attention on this and writing about this. Trafficking in persons, rights of children, rights of women and girls, rights of older persons, rights of persons with disabilities, environmental rights, economic, social, and cultural rights, business and human rights, NHRC case complaints, which we touched on.
Yes.
So there are many, and then it ends with challenges and recommendations, which is where I will go to right away.
Well, don't you think we should leave that to the end?
All right. No, I have a lot of, you know me and you, we have so much to talk about.
Before we start talking about challenges,
and recommendations.
Yes,
So,
yes.
you know, we've talked about a lot of positive things, even some of it which I was involved in, which the NHRC has been doing over 5 years. And you've received lots of complaints. I remember at the beginning when people were not receiving complaints.
Yes.
You were not receiving
complaints. You kickstart the process.
And that's when I came up with two or some of them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we'll go on let's go on to some of the other, difficult areas. So in the challenges and recommendations section in this report, you highlight that despite the strides made by the Commission in receiving and handling complaints, it faced challenges in the form of low cooperation from duty bearers, especially the Gambia Police Force. Similarly, the Commission could not successfully resolve a dispute involving the VDC of Kuntawu, Jakaba, and the Alcalo regarding a tractor offered to the community through the Program for Accelerated Community Development. Despite assurance of amicable resolution from the Office of the President, the Commission requested for update on the progress of the resolution of the dispute from the Office of the President, but is yet to receive any response. And the following are recommendations. So that is a challenge. The following are recommendations to address the above-mentioned challenges. There is need for collaboration and partnership between the Commission and duty bearers, especially the Gambia Police Force, and in line with our respective mandates. The Commission calls for speedy resolution of the Kuntawu-Jakaba tractor dispute in the best interest of the community and for peaceful coexistence. And this is what we like, that we see that the NHRC is very upfront with information. You go to your website, you can find a wealth of information there, and which is very important. But please, you might want to add.
Well, like in all institutions, you will find challenges. So the 2023, what we talked about, if you look at 2022, but in this particular one, we highlighted a challenge that we had. And that was mainly with the Gambia Police Force. Whereas before, it was very easy to get them to respond, you know, because the law gives the National Human Rights Commission a lot of powers. It does. It does. It is an oversight institution. Yes. But what we have realized is that there has been like a reluctance, like to see us as a body that is nosing. But that is why we were created. And you see, and you know, we do our job with such professionalism. The Act even allows us to subpoena. When we're dealing with state institution, we use
diplomacy.
Yes, because we have to work together.
Yes.
So
we don't just escalate things.
We don't need to escalate because in fact we even advise them. You see, because our role is funny. Not only are we an oversight institution, but we also have advisory role on all matters relating to human rights. But you know, personalities differ. I remember during the former IGP, Mahmoud Joof, actually he also started being a bit kind of tough, but with time, with interaction, he was so forthcoming. Not him and told him, listen, there is a gap here. Your police force needs to develop a code of conduct so that all your officers will understand, because they deal with human beings, and they don't deal with the general public. Yes. And I told him that, I remember telling him that you have a legacy. Remember that a lot of the complaints at the TRRC level is against the army and the police. And he was very cooperative. He was, even the Gorgimbo case, he started the investigation, you remember?
Yes.
And when he reported, I told him, no,
yes,
IGP, it's better. You leave it in the hands of, allow the bar to sit. Otherwise, we will not sit.
Wonderful.
We will not want it to be seen as
TRC is supposed to exercise oversight role over
the
police. It doesn't mean that.
Yes.
So now, it's a wonderful move that you did. And I remember I was one of those who was like up in arms that the police cannot investigate themselves, which is something which I felt was very strange. But do you think now, coming to where we are now,
in 2023, because it's specific, we're not hiding it. That's why we put it there.
Exactly.
So in 2023, you see, what happens is the police also have a human rights unit.
Yes, I've been actually, to be very honest, I have collaborated with the human rights unit in the police right now. But at the time when I brought the case on the Sifayi case, it was actually the police unit of the human rights unit that did most of the work. Although I would obviously, every now and then, when we felt that it was not moving, we would come to the NHRC to rain on them and to say, hey, NHRC, this is the complaint. And it worked in the end, just to highlight. It took some time, about 6 months, but it got resolved. So I just thought it would be very important.
No, it's important
for me to also give the police their human rights unit.
Yes. So what also happens
resolving this particular case?
What also happens, just to tell you the way we operate.
Yes, sir.
If we're investigating a matter and it involves maybe the police violation of rights, when we write to the police, they have days. There is a rules of procedure in which they have to respond. The Act says that. And usually when they tell us that they're also investigating the matter under their unit, we allow them to. But we allow them to tell us the outcome. And we will also talk to the victims.
Do you give them a time scale?
Oh, yeah, we do.
Okay.
And then we get back.
Okay.
So that was, in this case that you mentioned, they actually wrote and they responded and told us that they've even the office of the IGP has promised to give compensation. And the officers that were...
To be very honest, in that case, they took it up on their own. And in fact, for me, it marked a turning point. Because at the beginning, the police were not in a position to do that. And why did I say so? It needed the NHRC to take the bulls by the horn, which I believe you did with that first case. And then eventually, I can see that the police is changing, was changing. But now, people, just last week, with the police, you know, and there have been a number of incidents, you know, happening in the country with the police. Most notably, refusal to grant permit is a concern in the country. The last time during the OIC, before the OIC, they actually wrote to some of these, the Sisnem group who wanted to protest for the ferry. I don't know if you saw it when they said that because of the situation on security on the OIC, this is why they will not be granting any permits for protests. And if you observe, protests have not been allowed in for a very... What's your take on this? The police are well trained to deal with protesters.
Okay. Currently, as you know, before a protest out in the streets takes place, or a demonstration, whatever you call it, it is you need the IGP, the permit. Of course, we have all been trying to change that, as you know, as some countries have moved away from just permits to notification. And again, the reason is there because with time, you saw it during the time of Yahya Jammeh. It is a good way if the executive have control over the police, they can direct to them who they should give permit and who they should not give permit.
Indeed.
And that is why this issue of notification has come out strongly. So currently, the law as it stands, it gives the police the powers. We as an institution have tried to give them the best practice. We've even tried in our reports that the law should change to breaks down, hold them responsible. Now, in this particular case, in fact, I think it was the Maranyang and the others.
Yes, I did.
I was not even in the country. I heard
And
but what the police said was also that they were overstretched with, whether you believe it or not, I don't know, that they were overstretched because the OIC meeting had overstretched them for them to police any demonstration or protest. Although I was made to understand by the protesters, because I told them to also give us, when these things happen, people give us different stories. That's why we have our independent investigators. They even said that, no, they had even said, that's what they did, in fact. Yeah. So the problem is that if the police is overzealous, then we have a problem. We need law and order. That is number one. And these things, as in NHRC, quickly, I remember in one of our reports, they didn't even read the report. The police had a meeting and said the NHRC never sympathized with the police when they were injured. And I told them, look at page something. We were the first institution when the police were attacked, because we're the first institution that always say that the police need to be properly resourced. They should be trained. They should be paid well, and because they are doing a great service to this country. Indeed. So, but you see, the thing is this: we have, whatever we do, it has to be in accordance with due process, of course, and that is why security sector reform is important. The police have constraints. It's important. We know that much progress is happening there. Yeah. Because if we could security sector reform, the police have been trained on protest to handle with crowd, but we are still experiencing challenge for them to even allow protests to happen, so that they can show that, look, we have been trained. But even last week, for example, they had a issue. So I think there has been some work done, especially, but the challenge is, how can we make sure that the police is going to cooperate with your institution? Yeah, but not only with my institution. Even the AU came up with policing crowds in the democratic institution. We have moved from the era of Yahya Jammeh to a democratic dispensation. So that is also very important. The right holders as well must understand that although it's a democratic system and society, they also have to be law-abiding. So you need these two things to come together. Yes. The police cannot come and be like a military force to put down all kinds of demonstration. Yeah. That is not it. And this is why during the time of Mahmoud, I was just explaining to you, not only did we come up with a code of conduct, but we also came up with a document called Policing Public Assemblies, which will guide them. Issue of permits, and escorting, allowing. You see, sometimes the more you allow people to vent their anger, generally Gambians are not the violent, we're not the violent nature. So sometimes you can even diffuse the tension by giving space. Yes. Holding those that apply for the permit, holding them to account and say, listen, these are the conditions, X, Y, and Z. And we need to work on it. But as far as NHRC is concerned, is that, you see, what happens is that, Flex, you must have seen on, you see, when you have sometimes anti-democratic forces ganging up, saying that the NHRC is anti-police, you must have seen that caricature of me holding, no, there was one they did, me holding the mic for Lawyer Dabo. Yes, I saw that. I am the mouthpiece of Lawyer Dabo. That all lawyers, you see, but this comes from usually supporters. But I don't only blame maybe NPP supporters for doing that. There was a time also you had UDP supporters. I remember somebody sent something and put us like a dog in a leash being pulled by the president, as if whatever. But I think we have developed thick skin. We know how to deal with those things. Indeed. But everybody must understand that it's important. That it is very important, and that was why I started with the introduction. Why was the NHRC established? To make sure that we, as an oversight institution, audit all the institutions, executive institutions, and everybody, so that we bring back a culture of rule of law to this country. And I think it's very important that politicians right across the divide understand this. We are a political body. We do not subscribe to any political views here and there. Our job is to make sure that this country respect everybody, the duty bearers, the right holders, rule of law, so that we can have a society that we can all live in harmony and peace. This is the
dream.
This is the crux of the matter. And then so the police must also understand there is room for improvement. You know, sometimes personalities matter. People who head institutions, you know what I'm saying.
Of course.
So some are arrogant, you know. But I think the Jame era should teach all of us that a public service, you do not need to be arrogant. We are only serving, and then we are moving, and we can all be victims.
Indeed.
If I tell you, Flex, I was. You remember in those days, we started the Coalition of Human Rights Defenders. There are a lot of people who were anti-us during that particular period that we ended up saving during the time of Yahya Jammeh. You asked Batambedu. Yes, we had to file. They ended up in jail. Yes, and these were people who were even making a mockery of human rights. And if I just tell you, if you remember around 2013, people used to say that there was a government at mile 2. You had Njobuba, who was the head of the civil service. I think cabinet secretary. You had even Pahari Jammeh who was then. You had the Chief Justice Wowo. Well, you had what was Mr. Jobate, Attorney General, was in jail. You had former, he just passed away, and Sabaji, IGP, was in jail. So the point I'm trying to make is that it is important that we all try to do the right thing.
Indeed.
Because at the end of the day, it will benefit us. Nobody is immune to abuse. Let me tell you, you have to look at the world. You have to look at what happened to Sonko at the Hague, in Switzerland. What happened to Bailo, Korea in America. I'm just saying that as a society, yes, every society will have conflict. We all should try to, but the meeting point is really for us to do it in accordance with the law. So that is what we're preaching. And what human rights are we talking about? I have to tell you, because if you look at social media, they say a lot of things about NHRC. What we are guarding is chapter 4 of the Constitution. So we are not making, Emmanuel Joof and his commissioners are not making any human rights law. That is what we're talking about. Let us abide by the chapter 4 of our Constitution, which has the fundamental rights and freedom. I did not make that Constitution.
Yes.
So when we also tell the government that do X, Y, and Z, because when we look at conventions and treaties that this country has ratified, you see, this is the problem in the Gambia. They personalize things. So when we talk about the government should do X, Y, they said he's opposition. No, I am not. No. I am telling the government, remember, you ratified the UN Convention on X, Y, and Z. Indeed. You ratified the African Charter on Human and People's Rights.
There is also a universal periodic review,
of course,
which the government is under. And by October, there is going to be...
I was in Geneva.
Yes.
In 2019, when the Gambia was being reviewed. But to be honest, that was a very good reception that we had.
It was,
remember,
was the first time?
Yeah, no. That was the third time we were being reviewed. Yes. Okay. The states are reviewed every 4 years.
Every 4 years. But the Gambia, before...
we were reviewed before.
Okay. But was that during the Jammeh era?
It was during the Jammeh era.
Okay. How many times? How many...
And we did not... 2019.
Yes.
Remember, Jammeh had gone in 2017.
Yes.
So this government had scored highly.
Yes.
Because what they had told us to do when Jammeh left, the government did.
Okay.
They even went with us. The National Human Rights Commission, which was even stated they should have.
Yes.
We were in existence.
Indeed, I saw that. So one of the things which is very important for some of the people who may not know what we are talking about, there is what we call the Universal Periodic Review. The Gambia is a signatory or is part of the UN countries. And the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is something which the countries, they look at. How is your country? Different countries. It's peer review. So you will see Senegal will say Gambia has to do so and so. Another country, Sierra Leone, will say Gambia has to do so and so. And then United Kingdom will say, no, we think Gambia should do so and so. To improve, for example, on human rights. One of them is actually on sedition. Sedition. that the Gambia should repeal the sedition laws, which is supposed to be repealed by this criminal code, which is currently in Parliament right now as we speak. So, but sedition is being used in the country. But how do those things work for you as the NHRC chair? Because it will obviously affect the Gambia when we go. Because one of the things, for example, is for us to remove sedition. We as a country are saying, we are serious, the government is saying, yes, we will repeal it. In fact, we have a criminal code which is going to do justice. But the IGP has gone around and he is actually taking somebody to court on sedition, which is Ibrahim Adiba. How do you see this?
You see, it's important. Unfortunately, us Gambians, and sadly, sometimes even the executive don't understand. Not all of them understand the process. You've mentioned a very important thing, that every country in the world that is a member of the UN is reviewed. Even America is harassed when their time comes. So every 4.5 years, 4 years, countries have to come back before the council.
Yes.
And then they will go and they will be grilled and they will be asked. Because after every review, there are recommendations.
Indeed.
So the Gambia, there were 222 recommendations, and we've agreed that we will I think 202 or whatever.
Quite a lot of them.
Yes.
I've seen even that one, the one on sedition.
They told the Gambia, we are happy with you now that you have a law criminalizing FGM, but we want you to be more
in the implementation.
To prosecute more. And the Gambia said, we will.
Which is the problem for us as a country.
Well, no,
we have good laws and the implementation.
So the Gambia will have to go back to respond to all those issues that they said, because the Gambia agreed. They said agreed. The only ones they didn't agree to were, those are the ones they say noted. When they say noted, we say, well, we can't right now. But the Gambia accepted.
Yes, I saw it, supported in the word they use.
So you are right. One of the things, but that is why they should even work closely. As an institution, we remind the government.
Is it that do you think that the IGP is not aware of some of these things? Because of, if the IGP is aware, and that Batambedu also promised in this country that the government will no longer use sedition. But now we have a new IGP. Sometimes institutional memory might be an issue. Do you, for example, remind him, Mr. IGP, and even the current Minister of Justice, that look, this thing, I know I'm putting you in a, but this thing is about the human rights that we're talking about. This thing, sir, Mr. IGP, if you go ahead to prosecute somebody with sedition, it is going to affect our universal periodic review when we come. Mr. IGP, if you go ahead and you go X or Y, your crowd control, you're not allowing people to protest, no permit is given, you are not showing that you have received training, your officers have been trained and now they are dealing with this. Find them this affects your work as well.
Your question is very simple, and I will answer it straight away.
Yes, sir.
Number one, even before the current issue, I'm sure you're trying to steer away closely to the DIBA, those that were just charged recently. If the report that you were reading, if you go to under freedom of expression, you will find among the recommendation, we are telling the government, expunge section 54. It's there.
Very good.
That is one. Just to tell you, it's in the report.
It's in your report.
It's in the report.
Government, please
but not only that. Not only that. That's why I tell you that what we do, the institution that I head is more like an iceberg. We do more belonging the Chief Government Legal Advisor, which is the Minister of Justice as well, copied to the IGP and the Minister of Interior, reminding them of exactly what you said, that when the Gambia was reviewed in 2019, one of the things we have accepted was to remove these provisions in our laws, and we are now going to be reviewed very soon. In fact, the Gambia should be writing their report in October, and we'll be reviewed in February.
Next year.
So we will all go again. We will all go. So our job, it's not our job to fault the government.
Of course.
So we That's what I say. You didn't see that letter because it was a letter that went telling them. But it's good that you ask, because most of the time people say, what is the human rights doing? You know what I'm saying? Even when they
cannot make the connection. It's unfortunate.
No, but sometimes also I don't blame them. We don't have to publicize letters that we write.
Not all the time at all. I agree.
But I'm just telling you that definitely, because this is also featured in our report, that we have reminded them that, listen, this is not even good for you. One, you have agreed under the UPR that you will not have it in your laws, but you have gone back to even use it. You see, but our job is very interesting, that even when we issue a press release, one side will try to politicize it. That is very necessary for everybody to know our stance. But just to allay your fears, not only does it feature in our report, but just 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, we sent a letter mentioning this exact provision, mentioning our UPR and what the Gambia said, and reminding the government that we are going to be subjected to the UPR. So be rest assured that the NHRC is doing exactly that. We have to do this flex, because that's why we have an advisory role. We scan the treaties, the conventions, the UPR, that the government agreements that we have. That is why even if you look at our report, it starts by having a list. We have ratified this. We have not ratified this.
That's the start.
So and then we follow the government. So, but you see, the thing is also our job is to advise them and tell them.
Of course, and the rest, they are the implementers. And
but we also involve the National Assembly, because remember, the institution that has an oversight institution is on us is the National Assembly. And whenever we do these things, we tell them to remind, because they are the lawmakers. For them also to put pressure on the executive.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. We have just about 9 more minutes to go, and then we'll be finishing. But I want to take good advantage. We're steering away out of TRRC recommendations. This is in the 2023 report. I know that the SPO, SAM, there are some more. I just want to be fair to government, just so people know. But we are referring to the 2023 review, which the NHRC has done. And in that, they have found that 6 recommendations have been fully implemented. And we have actually 165 ongoing. And then 91 recommendations have not been implemented or started yet. So that is where we are. You know, some time back, when the NHRC was putting out a survey on freedom of expression, hate speech, actually, if I can be specific, hate speech, I was one of those people who was obviously very, interested. Although people followed me for a while before I answered. Eventually, when I did answer, I started sharing it. And then people started, and then it just coincided, the president's statement on the issue of the UDP, against UDP, and highlighting the issue that, his supporters, anybody who insults them, they should be ready to fight back. So it was just around that point. And then eventually, obviously, we all see what has happened. Hussein Dabo has responded that they would use violence to meet violence. These were some of the words that they said. But people obviously were asking me, is the NHRC doing this because of the president's statement or because of Hussein Dabo? No, I said, wait, no, this thing has actually been ongoing for quite a while. So I thought it would be, I did make that clarification. Sharing your survey for people to go about it. But to come to this is the last question, as you've seen, I've left it for the end. So, we are already, we're hearing the exchange of words between the president and his biggest opposition rival. Very worrying. But we have not seen the usual statement from the NHRC. Because of, if I can talk, I, as one of those journalists who you've been sending, you've actually in the past called both Hussein Dabo and the president to tone it down. You've released a statement. This is in the last election. But how comes this time you've been silent?
So you have said something interesting.
Yes, sir.
You said when the president also.
Yeah, he also responded.
Okay. So this is what is happening. The NHRC, I will tell you exactly. We have decided we're going to be strategic. What do I mean by that? We have the inter-party committee, the, or sometimes known as the Janjambure Peace Accord. What is happening is that they have all signed a pledge, and that pledge is still existing to avoid hate speech, speeches that will incite violence among their members. Yeah. So you see, the NHRC is refusing to be a pawn in the process. Okay. What happens is that, and this is an observation, statements are made, one group will quickly write and tag us. What are you? You're not saying anything. Then the response comes. Yes. Yeah, which is also unbecoming. I remember one time, as you were saying, I was a UDP the day before and an NPP the following day. What I mean by that, the president had made a statement. Yes. Even the issue of tear gas, and we wrote strictly and said you cannot say that as a president. Yes. And of course, oh my God, the abuse I got. Yes. You know, I remember. Then quickly, Mr. Dabo, in his anger, also responded that he will destroy Dabo, destroy Adamaparo. You remember? Yes, I remember. We wrote back and said, you cannot. We had to come up with a press release. No, because what happens is, this is the time, we are not running away or shying. Okay. But just to tell you, when it came to these things, we write, sometimes directly. Diplomacy? Yes, but we are also summoning. You will see us going to the inter-party committee. Okay. And we will come up with a press release, because as you are nervous about what is happening, we are. We are not in 2026 yet. Yet the skirmishes have started. Yes, politics, will evoke emotions. These things happen. I remember when I was a young boy in Banjul with the drumming, the garware. People will say, politics is those kind of things. But and that was why they came up with the Janjambure Peace Accord. Indeed. You have to draw the line, because when, for example, certain speeches are made to either incite your followers to break the law or inciting violence, that's dangerous. Because we had a very successful 2021 presidential election, and we were up and about in the country. Yes. And this was our message. Yes. Tone it down, tone it down, tone it down. But right now, what we have seen is that the drums of war. So we felt that we need every day. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, but as an institution, we do not condone hate speech that incite violence, especially if it's coming from leaders. Somebody can say nonsense out there. You don't command respect all, but leaders all up there should always be careful what they say, because what they say will they have a following. In fact, the president is being praised for holding the first ever dialogue with political party leaders earlier this year. The national dialogue. National dialogue. People like me were here on the radio saying, well done, wonderful, good job. But now, the president was the first one to even issue if I could say, the warning shot. Yeah. And he's the president for everybody. Yes. Even the president for his opposition leaders, he is their president. So how do you deal with this? Where we have about 2 more minutes, and but how the way we deal with it, yes, sir, will be to engage them. Yes, sir. Engage the president. We have a closed door meeting with the president as well. Maybe you don't know that every year we have. He will tell us what he feels, even about us. Yes. And he's telling also what we feel. And then we come out and we don't mention what was said, apart from the niceties. But so we have this also, but at the same time, as I told you, it's important that since they've developed this inter-party committee, we had the commission meeting and we felt that this is the institution that we need to engage and flag these things. Because as we go through election, we are not even there yet. And this, as you say, these shots are being fired. Just let them hold their guns. Yeah. and we will make sure that we'll pull the guns from them and let them kacha and yes. But as you know, it's politics evokes emotion, and the supporters. In fact, it should be the leaders who should calm the supporters.
In fact, this is my
word. It is the supporters usually who cause trouble.
Ousainou Darboe and the president are never going to hold each other and grapple.
Yeah,
it will not happen.
Yes.
It's the
executive level. The level of maturity will be there, so that I must say this. I just watched 2 days ago. I think Tinubu of Nigeria paired.
Yes.
And I think he had a nasty fall. And the opposition leader, Peter, whatever, the Igbo man, his supporters were saying bad things about Tinubu. And he responded and said, never say that.
Yes, very good. That's very good.
I may be in opposition. I may not agree with him. But for the president to fall down and then you are gloating over it, it's bad. So hopefully we will get there.
Yes.
This is where we need to get.
Indeed.
And I think we can get there. Gambia has had a history of democracy. We just have to tell our leaders to calm down.
Indeed.
Calm the tempo. Calm the tempo. But you know, when father and son are quarreling, it's always difficult.
It's always very difficult. And I think that's the perfect place for us to close the program. You were listening to Straight Talk. I told you we had a special program today. We were just with the NHRC Chairperson talking about state of human rights in the Gambia. We talked a lot about broad issues, which we really had to talk about. We will bring him back here to talk about the TRRC when he submits his report. But the NHRC has been 5 years now. It's important for us to know what they are doing. You can go on their website, you can see their report, look at what they are doing. They are very open. They have a communications unit who is always very willing to talk to them. So for those of you listening to Straight Talk, for us, those in the Gambia, 95.3 FM West Coast Radio, and for those listening, watching to us on the YouTube, it's bye for us today. Tomorrow, a guest who you cannot miss for them to be on this platform. For now, bye for now, and thank you to all our wonderful listeners, and thank you, of course, to our special guest for taking his time to come here today. Bye for now.